countries in 1 year. And I'm sure in the army, you'll measurably be able to beat me at some point there. But I found myself in a bar, as you do when you're a solo traveller. And raise your hands if anyone here has like gone out and purposely gone travelling by themselves. Yeah, a few. It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, because if you don't speak to people, it's just going to be a solo experience, and it's that exchange with other people. That's what makes life full and vibrant. So I was sitting in a bar, and someone said to me, we were in a group of people, someone said, have you ever done Vipassana meditation? Raise your hands if you've heard of Vipassana meditation. All one of you. So therefore, none of you, I'm sure. Have you done Vipassana meditation?
Not that particular one.
It's a 10-day silent meditation retreat where you do not talk for 10 days. I know. I can see from some of your faces. Some of you, after maybe about 2 hours, you will combust. But for me, I just wanted to kind of let things settle so I could have a bit more clarity about what was going on over there with me that was not having my relationships flourish. Because I say, look at someone's external life, and that will tell you what's going on internally. So off I went to Chiang Mai, and it was predominantly monks and about 100 Thai women. And as I entered, they brought me to this beautiful building, and it was white walls, white floor, bunk beds, lovely mattresses, and I was like, ooh, this is going to be good. And they go, no, you're a Farang, and Farang means tourist. You don't stay here with the Thai women, you come over here. So they brought me over to these very old, rickety huts. Looked like they'd been built in about 1720. And there's about 4 other foreigners. So I spent the afternoon cleaning. I'm a bit OCD. I feel like I should be in the army, really. You know, the whole cleaning of things and keeping it smart and integrous. So I spent the afternoon cleaning, and I think this is the best I could do with my Shangri-La at the time. So the routine is that you go to bed around 10 o'clock. So I went to bed. My mattress was about this thick. So as I slept, I woke up. I slept for about 10 minutes. And then my back woke me up. Started to have a conversation with me. Elaine, this is not good. You should go back to Bangkok. Lots of hotels. I thought, no. And I tossed and I turned all night, just fighting my internal, dialogue. And then you're meant to wake up at 4 o'clock, where you meditate in your room by yourself. But you know what my thoughts said to me? Go back to sleep. Nobody's watching. Which I promptly did. And then you wake up at 6 o'clock, you have your first meal of the day, which was lovely, Thai food, wonderful. And then you actually are meant to go into a temple and sit there and meditate on your nose. Do you know how hard that is? Pick up my nose. Of course I can meditate on my nose. And then 10 seconds later, a thought comes in. No, nose. Another 10 seconds. And my thoughts were just all over the place. And a lot of my thoughts were worries and anxious about the future or the past. And so that was the meditation, just to be at peace with the thoughts that are coming into your head and don't fight them and have an argument with them. And then I had my last meal at 12 o'clock. After that, the only person I was meant to speak to was the monk. I called him Mr. Miyagi. And so I sat down, and so he said, so how is it going? I thought, oh, you shouldn't ask. Out of my mouth came a tsunami of complaints. My legs hurt. I'm a Westerner. I'm not meant to sit cross-legged. I'm hungry. How can I sleep on that bed? And he just sat there very calmly. And then over the next 10 days, he shared some amazing insights with me. At the time, I think some of them were as poignant as Mr. Miyagi saying to Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. But when I came back here to the UK, I started to apply them. And they've made a profound difference in my life. And I'm going to share one of them with you during this session. And one thing we really looked at is that your language creates your whole reality. So I want to ask you a question, and raise your hand. How many of you have spent a whole week thinking about what you're thinking about? Yeah, oh, awesome. Very good, very good. Okay, we're going to go backwards. 3 days. A few people, 3 days. 1 day, maybe 1 hour. There. That's the general rule. We'll deal with situations as they come, we sit back, we ponder. But when I sat back and I actually started to, if I realised that my thinking is creating my whole reality, it actually makes sense to spend time thinking about what you're thinking about. So when I came back to the UK, that's exactly what I did. And there's some women, obviously we found a corner, and obviously we talked, yeah. I'm a bit of a break the rule type of person, so I don't know if the army would be my cup of tea, but there you go. So when I came back to the UK, I'd been working with young offenders, and I'd started my own business, but it wasn't flourishing, so I just totally jumped into it when I came back. And I joined something called Toastmasters. Raise your hands if you've heard Toastmasters. Oh, I love that, wonderful. Raise your hands if you have become a member of Toastmasters or one person. All right, so Toastmasters, and the people who've heard about it, raise your hands if you've been to visit a club. A few of you. Oh, yes, just at the back. He's doing the afternoon session. So I always encourage everybody, if you want to develop in terms of standing at the front, in terms of your leadership, because the more you go up in your leadership, it is a requirement to stand at the front and speak. Now, raise your hands if you really love public speaking. I might as well go home. We might as well go home, Jez. Yeah? Well, that's great. So Toastmasters is an environment where you can grow, you can develop, you can get feedback, which is essence with regards to public speaking, and you can gain confidence, standing at the front. So I joined Toastmasters, I was winning some competitions, and then I decided to just go out speaking. I'm one of those people, just go out speaking, share. That's a beautiful power of when we have something of value, go and share it. And as activists, you're going to be going to share, about Cal. And what will people take away from when you share? So I've just, over the years, I've been doing this like 10 years, more or less. Over the years, I go out speaking at events of various size, and I do workshops as well. So my main area is public speaking, and I trained around 20,000 people with regards to public speaking. I speak at conferences. Next year I'm doing sort of the US, which is like 3,000 people type of big scenario. And everyone heard of the TED Talks? Yes. Yeah, I ran a TEDx event in London for 3 years. So I'll talk a little bit about that because, that's creating the team. How do you enroll people in what's possible? And that's a big part of the TED Talks because you have to find sponsors and people to give you money. So the enrollment is a huge conversation to have. So I ran that for 3 years. I'm a Sherry Blair mentor. They're always, ladies, they're always looking for mentors. So join them. And I am a lover of life. Why? Because I said so. And, there we go. I put these last 2 pictures up here because around 4 years ago I decided that I wanted a bit like Mike Myers. Remember Mike Myers? Austin Powers? And I wanted to be like him. I wanted to be an international woman of mystery. And I wanted to have an international lifestyle. So I thought, where can I work that I don't have to learn another language? So off I went. I chose LA. And I'm what they call a curveball in the US. They don't see me coming. Because they'll look at me and I think I'm African American. And then suddenly I open up my mouth and I go, hello. Oh my God. And then I turn more into Bridget Jones. I get very Bridget Jones and more British when I'm there. But I didn't know anybody in the US. I didn't know anybody in LA. But that just didn't stop me. Because I know some tools which I'll share with you about how do you enroll people, how do you see what's important for other people. And so I've created a network in the US that will help me with work and just building a community. And what does it take to really have people feel that they're part of something? So that's just a little bit about myself, and I've worked with various clients, a lot of government over the years. So let's hear about you, because today is about you. And we're going to be looking at 3 areas. What happens before networking, which is just as important as the networking itself, because you'll find that it's the before that will dictate what happens during, and also will dictate what happens afterwards. So we're going to look at before, during, and after. So in the before, a question I'm going to pose to you is, how does networking occur for you that doesn't, well, I'm not going to put that doesn't work. How does networking occur for you? Because you have to see that how it occurs for you will be how you take actions in line with it, the decisions you make about it. So with your partner, you might have to go to, there's 2, it's a 5-seat auditorium, not always the best, so one person might have to turn around to the other. So with your partner, just share, how does networking occur for you? What are your concerns? I think it's always good to share the concerns, because you'll find there's other people that have got the same type of concerns going on, and then we can address them in this session, instead of me trying to always just fit what I have into your arena. Let's bring it out in the open. What are actually some of your concerns? So with your partner, I'm going to give you 2 minutes each to share, how does networking occur for you? And I always say that, 1% of all of you is so much powerful than 100% of myself. That's why I think sharing is incredible, because you learn so much from it. So thank you very much for sharing. So let's move on to dealing with before. And so we are going to look at the mindset, because I think there's a lovely quote that it says success is 80% mindset and only 20% skills. And I'm sure you found that in the army. It's what goes on inside here will have you, be able to command your battalion, or I'm actually going to use the wrong terminology here, but just be with me on that one. So we're going to look at the mindset, and it's the same with public speaking, it's the same with anything. You've got to look at what language are you saying to yourself that maybe you don't say out loud, but actually it's running underneath. So if you think about language, I'm not going to say I'm going to tell you anything that you don't know already, but it's also good to hear a nice little refresher, and from a different angle I'll be coming from. Our brain just is always in line with our thoughts, always. So when if we start saying, this is not, start getting stressed, and this is not fair, and you start in that line, you'll find that obviously your heart will start beating, maybe you'll start clenching your fists, your jaw, because your brain is always listening to our thoughts, it's always listening to our language, and it's always in line with that. So you always want to be aware of what is it that you're saying to yourself about networking, about, because some of you will be going out presenting, about public speaking, that doesn't have everybody put their hand up, that they love public speaking, can't wait to do it. It's only because of what you say to yourself about it, how it actually occurs for you. So the first thing to think about is, what am I actually saying to myself? Because that's what you're living into. And your body is always following in line with that. That's kind of the baseline of who we are as human beings. And, as I said, think about what you're thinking about. So I'm going to give you a concept. It's a concept. It's an idea that you can take on board or not. I found that it has served me immensely in my life. And that is, thoughts are not real. Raise your hands if you see that thoughts aren't real. Hey, I love that. Some audiences, maybe 2 people. Yeah? Thoughts haven't got solid, they're not solid in terms of this type of real. All that happens with our thoughts is that we have a synapses firing in the brain, which creates a neuro pathway. We say something once, little pathway, we keep on saying it, we keep on doing that pattern, and it becomes a nice thick pathway that's now in our unconscious, and we don't even have to think about it too much, it just naturally is there. For instance, Do you have to think about driving? You can nod, you can shake. Yes? No. Exactly. Because it's now a nice thick pathway. And then the question I'm going to ask you then, who created language? It's not a trick question. Who created language?
Problem, I think. Problem created language. Problem?
No, who created language? Was it there when we arrived in the world?
No.
Right, so humans created language. Why am I saying that? Because if language is a creation, what you say actually isn't real. It's just a creation. You just create it. And if it's a creation, you can create anything in an instant. In an instant. If you actually see the power of language, and if you see that if something occurs for you a certain way, well, actually, it's not real. It's just something you said. You can just in an instant change how it occurs for you, and therefore you'll actually then you'll then change the actions you take and the results you get. So I think I'm gonna. One of the things to look at is you've got to notice though, what are you saying to yourself about networking or about presenting that actually doesn't serve you? Because it's just a creation, it's not real. Are you feeding into it? Or actually, are you catching yourself? Because I find a lot of people, we do not catch ourselves. We have it that it's a certain way. Your partner's fixed a certain way. That's how they are. Well, no, they're not. People are multidimensional. They're not just a certain way. But then we have it that they are. So when you go out networking, do you have it that certain people are a certain way? Well, they might be to you, but to somebody else they're not that way. And it's just language. So there's a real power in understanding and really taking on board that you have to notice when you're saying certain things that don't serve you, and you've got to interrupt it. If you don't interrupt it, it's like it's just going to keep on running. It's a pattern. And we do have, all of us, patterns that just aren't serving us about ourselves. The general human being pattern that we have is, I'm not good enough. Said another way, imposter syndrome. Yeah? And is it true? Well, no. So why do we keep on saying it? You've got to notice, you've got to interrupt it, and then you have to create something new. And when you take that creation in language, you'll actually take different languages, different actions, and get different results. And we're going to actually do an exercise around that so you can really see how does that work. I love this because it's Kilburn Tube Station. Your life is your garden. Your thoughts are your seeds. If your life isn't awesome, it's because you're watering the weeds. Are you spending too much time focusing on things that do not serve you? And therefore they grow. You just create all these big synapses in your brain. At any moment, you can just change it over. So we're going to look at how does networking really occur for you that doesn't serve you? Because I always say, there's ways that it occurs for you, keep them. Fabulous, they're amazing. But I'm looking at what's actually going on underneath the surface that maybe you're not vocalizing to other people, but they are there. Yeah? So with your partner, what I'd like you to do is just share, what do you get from what I've just said? I don't mind what comes up for you. It might be a disagreement, it might be, actually, I see I'm doing this, I don't mind, it's up to you. What are you seeing with regard to what I've just said about language and how important your language is? Remember, what I'm saying is just a concept, it's just an idea. Because if I'm saying that it's language, it's creation, that is just a creation. It's not necessarily true, it's just something that works. It works if you see that language, you can change it in an instant and create a different outcome just by the power of what you say. Because your brain will listen to it and you'll take actions in line with what you're thinking. So spend time thinking about what you're thinking about. So we're going to do this exercise now, and it's called the do have be, or the be do have. Raise your hands if you've heard of the be do have. One of you. Okay. Two maybe. All right. So in life, this is generally how we do life as human beings. we will do certain actions in order to get certain results, and then we'll be a certain way. For instance, someone might come into, so the actions, you know, someone might come into work very early, they'll take on extra projects, you know, for you guys, you know, being a volunteer, you're going to take on extra duties, extra responsibilities, and then what are some of the results that you might have? Well, you might have, if it's a work environment, you might have promotion. For you guys, you'll have a bigger network. You'll have the knowledge that you're making a difference in people's lives. And a lot of times, it's the being that's who then will you be? Well, when someone's working really hard, usually to get something, a result, then at the end of it, they'll be. What are some of the things that we aspire to be in life? You can shout them out. That's such a big one, you know. And so many people say, when this so-and-so happens, and I get this result, then I'll be happy. Like happiness has to come at the end. You can't be happy now. Yes, there's some of the things we aspire to be, respected, admired, confident, and it all comes at the end. Now, I'm not saying that this is wrong. I'm just saying it's not the most powerful way to go through life. Because, another side, we're not human doings, we're human beings. And people don't speak about the being side of things. It's always the doing, the doing, the doing. Because I know there's a lot of people where you've got actions going on here, and have you ever done something, you know, you've got all your actions, even with the networking, you've got actions, and then you don't get the results that you want, yeah? Isn't it natural for us to go back to the actions? You can nod your head, this is your way of saying yes. So I know if you're with me or not. I could ask you to put up your hand, but I know that must annoy quite a few people. So nods are really good, then I can see we're on the same page. So people just keep on going between these two, and they somehow forget about the being side of it. Because actually, it's the being that's the powerful thing. So let me give you some examples so it really hits home. When you're being angry, yeah? So when you're being angry, actually no, not you. When other people are being angry, well, as human beings, what are some of the actions we'll take? What's natural for us to do?
Shouting.
Yeah, we'll shout at people. What else?
Slam doors.
Slam, we know what happens in your house. Slam doors. What else? Yeah, say things you don't mean. Therefore, they're the actions we take, and therefore, the results we get are what? Yeah, I just don't want to do all the work here at the front. I think it's good if we all do the work here.
It comes to self-fulfilling prophecy, same as the child's box.
Yes, yeah, definitely. You know, we create the results, broken relationships, you know, upset. Let me just give you one more example. I'm sure it's hit home, you do understand it. And you can do it on the other side of the coin. You know, when we're being kind, when we're being caring, what are some of the actions we instinctively take?
Gentle.
Yeah, we're being gentle. But what are actions? Because that's actually a way of being, the gentle. But so being gentle, kind. What actions do we take when we're being that way?
You'll help other people.
Yeah, we'll help other people.
Be a listener.
Yeah, be a good listener. Possibly give them gifts type of thing. Just reminded him. Yeah, and then, you know, we'll have the results, happy people, and so forth. So that's the be, do, have. So I'm going to give you, let me see if I'm on slide. I'm going to give you some examples. I'm going to give you one with my networking of, so you want to look at, and I'm going to have you do this. While I'm doing it, I want you to be doing it in your seat. We want to be looking at how are you being with regards to mindset. We're in the before section of networking. How are you being about it? And include presenting, because some of you will go out presenting. You know, how are you being about it that actually doesn't work for you? So when I looked at me and networking, what wasn't working well, what I was doing was, especially also when I was traveling, I'd walk into a room. So I was a member of something called BNI, Breakfast Networking International, where it's businesses and we have to refer business to each other. I help you, you help me, reciprocity. So I'd walk into a room and I'd see lots of people. And then I'd start to get really nervous and anxious. I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to start talking to people? So I'd get very nervous. And I'd stay on the edges. And then I'd look to see if there's somebody I know in the room. Yeah, you can see that one where you go, okay, do I know anyone? No, damn it! And then I just kind of stay at the side, and then I'd wait for somebody to come and talk to me, and I'd have conversations with them, but it was really awkward. And the whole time I was talking with someone, I was doing what we do. I was having a conversation with myself while I'm talking to them and listening. So am I really listening when I'm actually having a conversation with myself? No. So the outcome was really awkward. So then, what did I have? Well, they're the actions. What did I have? Well, I never used to make really good connections with people. And I'd just take lots and lots of cards, and at the end, I'd go home and I'd have all these cards, and that was it. And who was I being? Well, I was being anxious, I was being nervous, I was being scared. So because I was being anxious, nervous and scared, there were the actions, or I'd go on the other side of it, the no actions I was taking as well, because of who I was being. So that's that side of it. And then I'll show you, I'll work through how I changed that and transformed that. So let me give you an example of a relationship side of things as well, just so, because we cannot take ourselves away from work, you know, your life, you are you wherever you are. So let me give you a relationship that wasn't working. And you're going to have in your networking relationships that aren't going to work for whatever reason. So it's a relationship with my dad. Whenever me and my dad were together, within about 10 minutes, we would start arguing. Does anyone have a relationship like that in their life? Yeah, like your siblings, yeah? I'd walk into my house where I have Sunday lunch every 2 weeks with my dad, and I'd sit down, my dad, my stepmom, my little brother, and his wife, and then we start having general family conversations. My little brother starts talking about Rastafarians, and my dad turns to me and says, Elaine, I know more about Rastas than you do. And I'm like, hold on. How do you know how much I know about Rastas? Are you inside my head? Well, I come from Jamaica, and Jamaica's the land of Rastafarians. And I'm like, so what? I went out with Gary, and Gary was a Rasta, and my cousin Jersey from the Nyabingi tribe. And we talk a lot about Rastas, so actually, in fact, I know more about Rastas than you. And then for the next 10 minutes, me and my dad are going back and forth. I know more, he knows more, everybody around the table is just silent. And then my dad gets very animated, so the hands start flailing. So I say the thing I know I shouldn't say, Dad, calm down. Oh, don't tell me to calm down, it's my house, ha la 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 la. And then I just get so fed up, I start shouting, and then I say, you know what, I've had enough. It's like this every time I come round, and I walk out the room, I slam the door, and go upstairs inside my dad's house. So that's what I was doing in that relationship. Now, what do I have? Well, I have lots of arguments with my dad. That what I have, but I'm not privy to, a conversation in the family, like, don't invite Elaine around for Sunday lunch. There's lots of arguments. And I have anxiety that at some point I will give my dad a heart attack because he gets so animated. Now, who was I being? Like it was, actually, yeah, we can go to this. It's who I was being, and I thought, okay, do you know it's really easy to see how other people are being, but not so easy to see how we're being. And I thought, okay, you can see how I'm being, can't you? Go on, just nod your head. I won't be offended, that's fine. So, and this is how I was being with my dad all the time. So you want to look at your relationships, and then how are you being? Who is this person? What's important to them? Is there anything I have that can make a difference to them? So that's what I did. I went out networking, And I started to be really open, I started to be curious and ask lots and lots of questions. Because do you know what people's favourite subject is?
Yourself.
Exactly. And if you really listen, because you're being present, you're not having a conversation inside your head, because if you do, you're missing. You're not actually really listening. If you're really being present to somebody and you ask a question, there's so much gold that you can hear, that what's important for them. And that's what I did in networking, and created, a whole big network. My organisation's grown. I did it when I went to LA, just went out there, had conversations with people, and really got curious about what's important to them and how can I make a difference to you, because that's what people are interested in. How is this going to actually make a difference for me? And then my relationship with my dad, sometimes that's a bit harder. It's it's a family member. And I thought, okay, I can see how I'm being, and I know in language I can just change it like that. How would I love to be with my dad? And I thought, with my dad, how about Elaine just being accepting? My dad says what he says. He's just made it up anyway. It's language. I don't have to get angry. I can just accept. That's your point of view. That's fine. You know more than me. That's fine. Okay. I didn't have to argue with him. And then I thought, how about being playful with my dad? My dad, he starts his sentences with, the whole point is, and then he finishes it with, full stop. I thought, okay, if I'm being playful with my dad, I could say, new paragraph, next chapter. So I would be really playful with my dad. And actually, for me, what would make a difference is being loving. If I was being loving with my dad, I wouldn't be shouting at him. I'd be cherishing my relationship with him. So that's one thing to say, but actually, what does it look like in real life? Because your way of being, I do this with speakers on stage, we kind of get all this, and then we clear it out the space, and you keep on generating, how do you actually want to be? And with my dad, we had to put together IKEA bedroom flat pack. You know what that's like? 4 pieces of furniture. Only one available was my dad. Laid out all the wood, laid out the manuals. My dad walks in and says, oh, don't need manuals. I've been doing this for years. I thought, Awusa, accept. My dad got it wrong 3 times. 3 times, had to half undo the bed, the wardrobe, the chest of drawers. And the whole time, I was just playful with him. I wasn't right. I wasn't argumentative. I was playful. And the whole experience was totally different. So much so, my dad was like, Elaine, we never argue. I was like, I know that, it's a miracle. A flat pack. And I saw that for me, it was more important to actually be loving than it was to be right. And so now I'm with my dad, it's a whole different relationship. And it's because of who I'm being creates my actions, which creates the results. That's how powerful this tool is. I've used it in my finances, my career, my relationships, always looking, how am I being that's not working? Because that's the actions I'm taking. Actually, how would I love to be? So that's the question I'm going to give to you. How would you love to be? Because you distinguish how you're being. Fearful, scared, resigned, cynical. No, I'm sure not. But how are you being? And then just clear that out. It's language. How would you love to be around networking? You can be like this. Yeah? And it makes a huge difference when you just keep on generating it. But it's that thing that you have to keep on generating it because it's language and we'll forget it. We'll forget about being calm and relaxed because maybe that's, and open and friendly because maybe that's not our natural way of being. So I put something in my phone every day so I can, 21 days, a month, just so I can keep on, my brain can keep on remembering, no Elaine, be gentle, be patient, be kind. Yeah? And this works. It's an amazing tool for people to use whatever you're doing. So let's look at some of the benefits of networking. You know, we already know that there's benefits to us. And you always want to start off, what's your intention? Yeah? What's your goals? You want to be clear about what that is so that when you have conversations with people, they ask you a question, it just rolls off your tongue And you'll feel more grounded as well if you understand what your intention is for having this conversation, for being at this event. So I think you already, you have goals set for yourselves. Have you already set goals? Next, really, really important. What do you get out of it? What are the benefits for you? And really, really importantly, what is going to be the benefit for other people? Because that's when they're speaking to you, that's what they're thinking about. What's in it for me? What's in it for me? What's in it for me? And there will be people who just talk and talk at you and talk at you. And then they're not answering that question, well, how can I make a difference for you? So you want to really be clear about what's the benefit to you, because then you can share that with other people. Because they'll say, oh, so what did you get out of being an activist? Well, la 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 la, hamana hamana hamana. Yes, so be clear, what are the benefits? And then, I'm not sure if this works so much within your activists. You want to, see who can be, do you have teams? Will you have teams with your networks?
Yeah.
Justin, yeah?
In theory, yeah, we would like to create networks of teams.
Okay, so then you want to create, it's like when I had when I was running the TED Talks, we had a team, and I started off with 15 people, just because there's so much to do. But we weren't really clear about, who was doing the operations, eventually we did, but what I found is it's better to have quality than it is to have quantity, yeah? So, work with people who are very good at operations. They can show you how to get from A to B to C the quickest way. Because we've all got our strengths, we've all got our weaknesses. And then that's someone who's strategic. Work with someone, have a different mixture in your teams. Don't have everybody the same and the same strengths. And I'm sure you guys know that as well, with your ranks and your units, etc. And then have someone who's very developmental, they're the creative side of things, and they can think outside the box, and they can help grow and develop the team. So those are like 3 main areas that you want to have within your team. And eventually in my 3rd year, we got down to 6 people, and they were more effective with their work than having 15 people, and I stopped micromanaging. Which I think we can do a bit too much. People will not step up in their leadership, as you know, if you don't let them find things out for themselves, make those mistakes and learn from it and grow. And that's what's going on with human beings. What's in it for me? What's in it for me? So if anything, I'd write down a whole list of what's the benefit for people to become involved in this program. Because there's a whole list, and then can you create stories as well? And I think someone said it really is, I think it's the gentleman at the back, it's all about relationships. That's networking. Relationships, how do we build, you're all very good at building relationships. Yeah, there's not one solopreneur here by yourself, Billy Nomads. You've all built networks. Why when you come into a work environment are you not using those same tools? Finding out how people are. Sending out emails to them, what's going on with you, being curious, having those conversations that aren't surface and actually go a bit deeper. I think doing more the voice, possibly. All right, so yeah, obviously eye contact, you know how important that is. Smiling. Do you know, as you said, people standing there like this, they're just closing themselves off. How can you be open? So, smile at people. Yay, people smiling back. I think it's a lovely quote. It says, if you look at somebody and they don't smile, give them yours. And the majority of people will smile back, actually, unless they've got some issues. And then, that's not your problem, yeah? Obviously, volume, when you're speaking, you've got to project your voice. I speak loud all the time. I like energy. I like someone that has a bit of zing to their step, yeah? So this is also presenting. If I was standing there the whole time doing this, it would be a bit boring for people. And also you want to vary how you speak. When you're talking about something really important, you slow down. And then you want to get people excited to be part of COW. You get really excited, your voice gets a lot more faster. And very importantly, the pause. I'm not going to go into that too much because time is ticking. posture, hands, and breathing. All right, so let's look at what's really important as well. And I say knowing your audience, and your audience, whether you're presenting or you're networking, is these people. This is you to me. No, you're much more smiley, yeah? But with regards to other people, you really want to see that they're just like, what can you show me? What can you offer me? People are friendly, and a lot of times we'll just project our own insecurities on them, for them, yeah? But people are just open to listen, they want to learn, everyone wants to grow. Most people, they do want to develop, they've just got some stuff going on. So just be aware of your audience, and just always be aware. That's why I say when you're having those conversations, be curious, ask questions, and then you'll hear the fruits of how can they help to develop. So in regards to presenting and even networking, people do want information. There's a lot of information. Sometimes with presenting, they want to be entertained, they want some persuasion, and they want to be inspired. And raise your hands if you've heard of Aristotle's ethos, pathos, logos. All right, a few of you. And this is, it's like the power of persuasion. There's three things people are really looking for, whether you're having a conversation or you're presenting. They want to deal with, and I think I've got the head, hand and heart, just so you can remember them, because the words aren't always logical. They're looking at, so the logic. Is it logical what you're saying? Those are a lot of the analytical people. They want facts, they want statistics, they want to know the numbers. They want to know, is this rational? Does it make sense? So when you're having a conversation, you want to make sure you always add that into your conversation. Yeah? And you've got it there. And then you've got the ethos. This is like the credibility. What's your reputation? Are you reputable? Is there authority in how you're speaking, in how you're standing, how you carry yourself? What's the other one? Similarities. It's like, I'm just like you. People want to feel that. But it's a familiarity. We're comfortable with what's familiar. Hence, Civvy Street is a bit uncomfortable because you're not familiar. You say you're not familiar with it, but you are. You're born into it. Yeah? And also empathy is the emotional side of things as well. Can you have empathy with that person? And that means you've got to listen to them. So have a list of stories. I actually have a story index card, all things that have happened to me in my life and all the lessons that I've learned from it, like my takeaways, so I can use them at any point. Credibility. So, I told you I've trained 20,000 people. TED Talks, Sherry Blair, it's all authority. Or else people sit there and go, well, who are you? Why should I listen to you? Yeah, so you want to always create, the credibility. So use this, and the pathos as well. This, for me, this is like the main connection. This is when you share some of the challenges that you've gone through. It doesn't always want to be wonderful, fantastic. When you're vulnerable, when you can be vulnerable and share where things didn't go quite how you wanted in your journey, in your leadership, but then also how did you work through it? Because that's what we're looking for. What's the journey and how can you walk through it? So, during the network, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So you really got to get into their world. That's the most important thing to us. How things occur for us, what's going on for us. So be really curious to what's going on with people. And this is you. Is this you? How many people feel that they're actually quite a good listener? Okay, just under half. Yeah, you really want to listen to what people are saying. I'm going to ask a question. It might not be yourselves, but how many people, I know that a lot of times, especially in Civvy Street with networking, people are anxious of how do you start, people are anxious of what happens in the middle of the conversation, and then also how to leave the conversation. Raise your hands if that's kind of some of your concerns. Yeah? What's the more concern? How do you start, what's in the middle, or how do you leave it? Yeah? Okay. So a really, really simple way of leaving a conversation. If you want to, I think it's easy if you want to keep in touch with them. Yeah? Are you going to agree? It's easy. Yeah? Should we swap numbers and I'll give you a call next week, blah, blah, blah. But then there's so many people we want to talk to, and then there's one person who just really, really, really talks. And they talk a lot, and you think, how am I ever going to get out of this? Yeah? A simple way to do this is with David. I'm talking with David, and he's just going on and on. I find the gap. You've got to find the gap. How do I leave? There's other people to speak to. Just be honest, just be authentic. And trust me, if they have an issue with that, that's their issue. Yeah? I wouldn't think too much about it. It's not what you say, it's how you say it as well. You just walk up, like if you're be open, be unattached. Like walk up to, oh, may I join you? Do you know how many people are going to go, no? Simple question, may I join you? And people are very, obviously, there's certain people, if you've got 2 people face to face, leave them alone. They're closed. You've got 3 people in a little huddle. Do not stand on the outside like a sore thumb, which I'm sure you wouldn't. Look for the lone wolves. The people that are standing by them. Listen. Ask lots and lots of questions. People give you the gold dust. They really do, especially if you ask them questions about, so what's important with you and your leadership? We'll all start spilling them out. And then the exit, just obviously done eloquently. What can you do for other people? Trust me, if you give out and you make a difference with other people, they're more than happy to help you back. It's like open hands, and along the route they will, they will make a difference. And they say that your net worth is in correlation with your network. So networks are really important and amazing. So come with the concept of how can I make a difference with other people? Not our agenda is about ourselves. Really, and you'll see that it really makes a real difference. Find your ace networkers. There will be people who are really people person. Raise your hands if you're one of those. Like you're really into people. There will be people who instinctively they just talk a lot. And they utilize them because who do they know who knows somebody else? They have an array. They have a really big book. So find who the networkers, the natural ones in your group, and nurture those. Oh, sorry, my S has gone off. Nurture them in your teams, and nurture the relationships. They're responding to their filters, their values, their judgments. So yeah, you can't control that. You can only control yourself. Oh, 3's coming up. Yay! Build a strong team, and for me, it is about quality, not quantity. So when you build your teams, make sure you build it. It's like from the top down, as you know in the army. Top down. It really is meant to be very strong at the top. You filter down. It comes from top down. So really make it about people who are passionate. They really want to make a difference with other people. That's what leadership is about. How can you inspire people and have them not only grow, but also know that it is about making a difference, because you grow the most when you make a difference with other people. And the diary entries, are you putting things in your diary? I put things quarterly in my diary to contact people, because I will forget. It's language, I'll forget. And as soon as I meet someone, I go on those one-to-one with them and just share what am I up to, and then I'll ask them, what they're up to, how's that going to make a difference with them, what do they need? I'm very vocal about what's your need, so I can see if I know someone who can make a difference there, or with regards to them becoming an activist, what is it they want to develop, how is this going to make a difference, what's their journey, what's their aspirations. Yeah, so follow up, and that really is the end. Sorry, I've gone over time by about 3-4 minutes, and we do have a takeaway sheet as well, just about networking, lots of things I haven't covered. So just very quickly, with your partner, just share maybe one thing you're going to take away from this session, and actually, action. What action are you going to take, or else it's just been a great 90 minutes? Share with your partner.